Business Over Beer, Season 5, brought to you by Virtual Kathy, Andres Jimenez, Financial Advisor for Edward Jones, Taps Growler House, Uptown Screen Printing and Personalized Gifts, Better Together Payment Solutions, and Diana Rutherford, Real Estate Agent with Realty One Group Cascadia. Please support these great local small businesses. Hey everybody, Jonathan with Business Over Beer here, and this is Season 5 of the podcast. In this video, we interview Jason Beatty, CEO of International Graphics and Nameplate. We get to learn all about Jason's journey as a small business owner and how his commitment to technology really gives him a competitive advantage in the marketplace. And we also learn why he's such a faithful sponsor of the John McKibben Legacy Golf Tournament that we got to be a part of. Now, Jason gave us a shop tour, and he has a special surprise for us at the end, so you won't want to miss that. The link to that is below, along with all the interviews we did in Season 5, our spotlight of John McKibben and what he meant to the community, as well as a lot of fun that we had on the golf course. So go check out those videos as well. Hey, and if you like what you see, please subscribe, like, and share. And also, we're building our own community, and if you want to be part of it, go check us out at bizoverbeer.com/passages to success for more information. Hey, remember, it's not about what you do, it's about the story behind what you do. Prost.
Everybody, and welcome to another episode of the second biggest podcast in the Pacific Northwest. That's right, folks. We're still on the heels of those sassy, pesky, sassy Sasquatch hunters. But I know for a fact this episode will bring us to the apex, and we will reign supreme in the Pacific Northwest. Yes, of course, you were listening to Business Over Beer. I'm your co-host, Ben Surratt. Alongside me is the man of the hour, the terror of power. Some people call him a space cowboy. Some people call him man bun. Some people call him Champ, the Lake Champlain monster. But of course, we call him Spartacus. Happy, what day is it?
I don't know what day it is. I don't know what year it is. But Benjamin, I am Spartacus, and I have led you here at this great place. I am so excited to be here with all of you at this table. We're going to drink some beer. We're going to talk a little business. We're in our brand new shirts.
Yeah. Dude, these are awesome, too.
We're in our McKibben Golf Classic shirts. Did somebody say McKibben Golf Classic? Speaking of things that I think are sharp looking, to my right, of course, is the gangsta of Hazeldale. He is the gift that keeps on giving. Are you guys down with the KNOPP?
Yeah, you know me.
Jason Canope, welcome back to Business Over Beer, my friend. How you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling fantastic. We're out and about. We are interviewing some folks for the McKibben Legacy Classic, excuse me. And today we have Jason Beatty with International Graphics and Nameplate, who has allowed us to come in and have a conversation with him today. Jason, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here. Happy to have you guys here. Excited for this. I've enjoyed a few of your podcasts and excited to be a part of it. Thanks for having me.
Excellent.
Yeah, this is great. So you were nice enough to give us a tour a little bit earlier, so we got to see your awesome shop and your awesome operation. So we'll put together some video for that, so make sure you check that out on the YouTube page. And, of course, that'll be coming out with all the other McKibben Legacy Classic, the Columbia Credit Union McKibben Legacy Classic Golf Tournament. But, Jason, we always like to start with your business. So why don't you give us a 50,000-foot view of International Graphics and Nameplate and kind of what you're into?
Awesome. So International Graphics and Nameplate, we're in North Vancouver, Salmon Creek area. Small business, locally owned, been in business for over 35 years. We started out as a small metal nameplate shop, making metal labels for manufacturers, as the name suggests, internationally and nationally. And business has grown over the years. It's taken on new printing and production methods. Added the digital platform about 10 years, which is kind of where my background was. And kind of on a signature level, we're pretty much the biggest printer in Southwest Washington. We have the largest print capabilities. It's hard to drive around town and not see something we've done, which is a lot of fun to see your work come to life and in action. We work with a lot of local companies as well. We're involved in the community. We make everything from your basic signs and banners to wrapping vehicles and walls in corporate environments to very high-end metal labels for some of the most expensive pieces of equipment that are manufactured in North America in actuality, I guess. And so we don't have a lot of standard products, a lot of widgets. Almost everything we make is custom. So there's a real creative element that we get to be a part in. And it's really fun to see a project start from a customer's idea or maybe a rough conceptual and kind of make it come to life and deal with the practical side of not just making it, but how are you going to get it in place and deliver what that client's vision is.
And makers of the Business Over Beer podcast sign, the newest piece to our set.
A new official background, I hope.
The new official background, yes. Totally awesome. Well, thank you. I can't wait to learn about your involvement with the McKibben Legacy Classic Golf Tournament and all the years you put in there, your relationship with James O'Neill, who, of course, is the coordinator and founder of that great event, and your relationship with John McKibben and what he meant to this region. But, Jason, this is the Business Over Beer podcast. This is the beer portion of the program. We ask all of our guests to bring a beer to share. Have you brought us a beer to share?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Could not miss on that.
Awesome.
Hashtag winning.
Well, grab your beer and tell us a little bit about what you brought.
This would be Mac and Jack's African Amber.
Oh.
It is it's an oldie but a goodie in my experience. I was first introduced to this actually before I turned 21. I'm probably the only person who is listening to this that's ever done that. But I had a coworker at a job while I was in college and was pretty well connected in the area, and we were always the last two to close up shop. And just sometimes it was, hey, you want to go grab a beer? And wide-eyed, bright-eyed kid, I can't do that. And don't worry, come on. And this person that took me out, Mac and Jack's was her jam. And so I'd head off to the back, and she'd go grab a pitcher and a couple of pint glasses, and I've been hooked on Mac and Jack's ever since. So finally found a place. You can't really get it in cans, so found a place locally where you can get a growler fill, and treat myself to that a couple times a year.
Nice.
So I want
That's
to share that
awesome.
with you guys
Yeah.
today.
Love that.
Fantastic. Great story.
Love
It's a
that
great
story.
beer. I cut my teeth on amber ales. Amber ales were really my gateway into craft beer back in 2007. And I've had Mac and Jack's, of course. It's a Northwest staple, so excited to have it. I haven't had it in a very long time
been a
though,
while.
so be interesting to get a taste of that.
Well, there are a lot of great Southwest Washington ambers that I like as well. But I wanted to go with a classic since we're talking about the McKibben Classic, Legacy Classic.
See what he did there?
A little
There you
tie-in.
go.
Yes. But
Awesome. Prost.
Prost.
Thank you so much
All
for
right.
being here, Jason.
Yeah, thank
Or I guess thank you for letting us be here.
welcome, yes.
There we go.
All right.
Man, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
You know who had this? And it was always like, wasn't my first choice. But if everything else was gone or the selection wasn't good, Mac and Jack's, and it was Cinetopia.
Oh.
Cinetopia always had Mac and Jack's on tap.
On tap?
there. Yeah, and if there was stuff that I was like that, because they sometimes hit or miss, they always had Mac and Jack. So
Okay.
You knew going in, if everything else was not so very good, Mac and Jack's was there to save the day.
Well, I'm not an IPA guy, which is a tough thing in the Pacific Northwest. There's some of them that are a little on the lighter side, less hoppier that I'm kind of getting into, especially when it's the summer weather. But it's hard to find many places that carry an amber. And I like the Backwoods has a really good one, the Copper Line. I like that. You can find that out on the golf course. So hopefully they'll have that at the Classic next week. And then I like you guys have been with Steve Dronin over at Ridgefield Craft, his archaic amber. That's always my first pour when I go to visit him.
That is really good.
Yeah.
It's a great summer beer too because it's very light.
Yeah.
But it still has that malty body, a little bit of sweetness. Doesn't have the bitterness that I would prefer.
But
man, talk about porch pounders. I mean, this is a sitting on your porch on a summer evening and just goes down so super easy.
That is really my language right there. Yes, porch pounder. I'm going to use that term. That's a good one.
What do you think, Canoper?
Every time I've had it, I've enjoyed it. I mean, it's always smooth, easy to drink. I too don't like a lot of the IPAs. I mean, I enjoy them, but I can't continually drink them. I could have one or two, and that's about it. But otherwise, for me, it's Pilsners, and I can sit and drink those all day long. So this is nice. It's nice and smooth. Tastes good, just like you said. It's always there in case you need it, right?
Exactly. So
just there, giving you a nice
is.
cool hug.
It is. It is.
How are you doing today?
It's like you can always count on the friend that doesn't call all the time, but when it's like time never passed.
Puts his arm around you.
Did you have a tough day today? It's okay.
I did, Mac and Jack. Thank you.
Yes.
So, Jason, did you know John McKibben, or did you ever get a chance to meet with him? Or?
Oh, yeah. I met him. So I was born and raised in the Seattle area, and I moved down here in the fall of 2004. And I had some family out in the Camas area, but I came down here to start a business with a relative. Didn't know the community, didn't know what it was like at all. But we opened a franchise business and in Cascade Park, kind of that Trader Joe's complex. And I was a early 20s young man who didn't know what he didn't know, and had my business cards. And I started by just walking around that complex. And I walked into what was at the time a First Independent Bank. And the teller kind of looked at me, maybe took pity on me, I'm not sure, and said, hey, you need to meet Deanne. And I was like, who's Deanne? And they said, well, go over, sit over there for a minute. She'll be done in a minute. And so this woman, she was I think a business banker there, sat down with me, kind of asked me what my story was, took a couple minutes and said, you got to come to the chamber. And I said, what's the chamber? And she said, the Chamber of Commerce, like everybody's doing it. And so I was like, okay, like if you say so. She said, you'll be my guest. And so she had me as a guest to an event. I had heard of Chambers of Commerce, didn't know what they did, didn't know how they operated or anything like that. But she kind of took me by the arm and kind of showed me around, introduced me to a few people. John McKibben was one of those that first night. And they kind of followed up and made sure I had a good time and met some people. And they had me come to a new member orientation. And I joined pretty quick. And John at that came in kind of at the end to introduce himself to those new members, went around, greeted everyone, asked them a couple minutes of their story. I talked to him. He said, I want to meet you. I want to come to your business. Oh, wow, that sounds great. I mean, the president of the chamber, that was really cool. And so actually at the time, my partner and I, by that point, had already spun off and had two businesses. So it kind of piqued his interest in that. And he said, well, I don't want to just tour one. I want to see both. And so he took what was supposed to be maybe a half hour at each location, and it turned into a half a day thing. And that was the thing I came to learn about John, is that he genuinely enjoyed talking to people, getting to know them, and took a vested interest in them and seeing them grow and succeed, and really what things he could do to help you. And that role as chamber president, that's what he was doing when I first met him, and he was awesome at it. It was a treat. And for him to take half of a day and come spend that, and he was an advocate for me and my business, and we got off to a really strong start. Both of them did, and my involvement in the chamber and his looking out for me was something that just happened initially, and I think it actually kind of directed my time down here and has had a very strong place in where I am today.
So what things did John like teach you, or did you learn from him that you're implementing in your business now? If what are some things that you learned from him?
So John was very involved in a lot of organizations. With his background in politics, his time with the chamber, he was involved as a volunteer and board member with many organizations. So I had no background in any of that stuff, and that was one of the things that he kind of led an introduction for me of what Southwest Washington was like. My original business partner used the term provincial for Clark County. It's very provincial. I grew up in Seattle. We'd come down and visit family. We'd go across the border and buy our stuff sales tax free. That was the big deal. And I came down here, and that's kind of what my friends said. Oh, you go across to Oregon and buy stuff. And traffic, this was 15 years ago, traffic was bad, but not still what it is. And it was like, well, not really. I mean, it's kind of a hassle to go over there, the traffic, the bridge, that type of stuff. Like, if I can get it over here, I'd rather do that. I mean, the sales tax isn't that big of a factor. And that was kind of the mindset and that John really modeled was, do as much as you can in your home. Support your home community. And with that aspect, he led by example with his volunteerism, the organizations that he supported. And the story, I didn't hear this from him directly, this was kind of passed down years later, was John was part of a group of civic volunteers that served on a lot of different board of directors, and they met in the morning for a meeting. They went and off to do their jobs, and then they went and met at lunch for another organization they were on the board of, went back and did their afternoon jobs, and then after work they came and met for a third time, and it was this kind of core group that was doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And they sat around at these tables and said, who's going to take over when we retire? And that ultimately is the story, the brainchild of Leadership Clark County, which John was very active in the formation of that organization. The chamber was very involved in that. And I was introduced to the program. Shout out to the Vancouver Business Journal. Many years ago, I was recognized in their Accomplishment Under 40 program. From that was a kind of an inroad into the Leadership Clark County program. I went through that. That's where I met James O'Neill, was through that. He came in a couple years after. But it really showed me, and that was at the point where I decided I wasn't going back to Seattle. I was staying down here to make this my home, my community where I lived, worked, and raised a family. And so I started to get involved in things. And after completing my time in Leadership Clark County, I joined their board of directors. I served on that for 7 years. I chose the recruitment committee and co-chaired that for several years and brought people into that program. And that program was a vision of John and another select group of people. And that group is, they continue to do great things. They've been around for over 25 years now, maybe over 1,000 alumni in their program.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And you think about, what that program has done to inspire people to get out and work on things that our community needs. And again, all that goes back to the example that John led and that John thought about was leaving things better than you found them. And use your talents, your time, your treasure. How can you make your community better? And he led it by example. Leadership Clark County, one of their mantras is inspired a shared vision, and that's what John did. He built consensus. He got people to buy in and see a vision and act upon it, and brought whatever time, talent, or treasure they had. So when you talk about a legacy classic, this golf tournament is fitting because it celebrates John's legacy, and the 3 programs that benefit from it, they are his legacy. They're doing great things in our community just the way he envisioned, I think.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So you mentioned James O'Neill. So James O'Neill now, he wasn't when he started this 5 or 6 years ago. He was just a guy who had this father figure, John McKibben, in his life and lost him and wanted to honor him in a way. And this was the best way that James knew how to do it and put this thing together at a very grassroots kind of level. He obviously couldn't have gotten to where he is today without the support of great local small businesses to sponsor this event. And you and your organization has been really at the ground level, you have, I mean, more than just sponsored this tournament through the years. You have offered, and this is anecdotally from James, according to James, you have just offered everything that he's ever asked for and needed from you and your organization. So talk a little bit about your relationship with Jim and with James, and why it's important that you continue to participate in this event each year.
Well, I think James makes it easy. When he first came to me and spoke to me about the idea of the tournament, he had a vision, and he communicated that vision, and he did it with passion. And he was going to put everything he had into it. And I don't think he knows how to not put everything he has into something. That's just who he is, and that's why he's been so successful in this and his career and his family. But James went out and he made asks, and he shared his story of what John meant to him, and there were a lot of people that just right off the bat had that same feeling of John. John had that same experience. I was one of them, and that led to great initial support. And Columbia Credit Union, James wasn't with them at the time, but they jumped on. They had known John for a long time. They jumped in headfirst right from the beginning, and that gave James a great anchor tenant to he knew he had a good amount of revenue and corporate support, a legitimacy that came from bringing the Columbia Credit Union name. So other sponsors joined in, and those sponsors. I'm not the only one. International Graphics is not the only one that's been there from the beginning. Their sponsorship has not changed very much since its inception. I think that's a testament to John and his legacy and the commitment for people in our community to honor his legacy, the organizations that it supports, as well as James's passion for making a great tournament, because he has background in golf. He's seen a lot of tournaments. He's seen what works. He's seen what doesn't. And he wants to make sure that those golfers that go out and take time out of their day and put money towards these great causes, that they have a great time. And we in being in the signage and graphics industry, we get asked to do signage and participate in a lot of community events. There's a lot of golf tournaments out there, and we help as many as we can, and we have different levels of support. Unfortunately, we can't go play and participate in every one, so we have to pick. But when we look at the calendar at the beginning of the year, the McKibben Legacy Classic and Columbia Credit Union and Vesta Hospitality and those sponsors, that's on the calendar. Like, we're not missing that one. We want to throw our support there. And we're I was talking about John with time, talent, and treasure. We have a talent here. We have capabilities within the walls of International Graphics to make the biggest signs in the area. And so that's really been my challenge to James I've said, yes, we're in. What do you want to do? How do we differentiate this tournament to recognize those sponsors that jumped in and are making multi-year commitments? This is, we want to recognize those, because sponsors put in a lot of money to put on these tournaments. And, it's just been something year after year. He's always tried to add something new. I've never been to a tournament that's had a magician. I mean, if you guys haven't seen Tony Magic, I mean, you are in for a treat. It is one of the highlights of the tournament. It backs up whatever holes he's on, because people want to stop and see. And to go into this about International Graphics and how we are as a company, we want to invest in and partner with local businesses, organizations, support nonprofits and such. We had Tony Magic. He did our company Christmas party entertainment a couple of years ago. We were looking for something different. We wanted to change a pace. I had seen Tony at the party, the golf tournament that summer, and I said to my partner Matt, I said, "What do you think about bringing a magician in?" And he liked the idea, and I connected with James. Said, "Hey, hook me up with Tony," and we hooked up, and he came and put an awesome performance together that left our employees and their guests, like, there were some tricks he did that just were jaw dropping, and he does that stuff out on the course too. So like I said, James puts on an amazing tournament. He does it with passion. He's got great sponsors that love the vision of the Classic, and he makes it easy. He makes it easy to want to support. And the hard part is I want to do more. I challenge them. It's like, what else can we do? You guys know our capabilities. We're fortunate enough to work with Columbia Credit Union on a lot of their corporate graphics, and so they've got a great marketing group that's really taken it to another level with this tournament this year. And that's been the edict I've said is, you guys have a blank canvas. Let's go. Let's go big. Let's do the biggest signs. Let's do the biggest recognition so that your sponsors and your participants walk out of that going, those signs had an impact. That's what we can bring to the table.
Well, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about your business, because we love people's businesses, and you were, like I said earlier, you were nice enough to give us a tour. One of the things that I find really compelling about your story that I know from what you've told us so far is your commitment to technology and to staying sort of up with the curve. And I would assume this is a very technology heavy business where you could probably get behind the eight ball relatively quickly, but it's got to be really expensive to continue to make those jumps in equipment. How have you guys approached that so you can stay up with the times, but still be fiscally responsible and sort of mitigate the risk, the financial risk, and knowing how to pay all that stuff off and determining ROI?
Yeah. The last year has been a very interesting aspect, operating a business particularly that produces or manufactures things. And, with having either reduced hours, reduced staff, reduced capacity, increased demand, trying to get more through the shop with the same number of people, trying to identify areas of inefficiency. And we had a couple of bottlenecks. When in our industry, you're going to have stuff that is going to, you'll have a big project that'll come in that'll hit you pretty hard, and you'll work a week or two to get through it, and then it kind of quiets down. And we've been through that for years. We've seen that. We know how to adapt through that. We've got a phenomenal staff that cranks an amazing amount of stuff out in short time and does it very well. So, but we are very mindful as a company. We have a philosophy of a good work-life balance. And so when that doesn't change, when that workflow, that strain on the team is continuous, we are very attuned to that and being mindful. And how can we relieve that stress? Is it hiring more people? In the market, that wasn't really an option. There was not, the hiring market was very challenging. So our next look at was equipment. Is there more equipment new equipment that's out there? My partner is a phenomenal person in researching and finding ways to do things a little bit better. And sometimes that leads down rabbit holes that give you solutions to do things a lot better. So we've invested heavily in new equipment within the last 12 months. We've accounted for the amount of labor hours that we're consistently doing to get certain aspects done. We found equipment that has, reduced that drastically, which has kept efficiencies in some areas. It's moved the bottleneck into others. So then we've had to look and invest in equipment that's solved those problems. And we bought equipment. We bought laser is a technology that was new in our field, and we hadn't used it, but we've heard a lot about lasers. There's a couple of great laser companies in our area, so working with them and learning from them, we decided to buy a laser to change our finishing of a certain type of label. And the thought at the time was, we're going to bring that in and we're going to take that element off of the plate of everybody else. And it did that, and we caught up in that area real quick. And then it became, they started sending more that way. And it kind of flipped our script. What we thought was going to be overflow became the primary source. And then the hand finishing, the hand completion of projects kind of became more of the ancillary. Well, quickly, we put the first laser in, and not too long after that, we said, we need to look at a second one. There's the aspect of labor, but there's also the aspect of the stress on the team. And you saw that happen. And it was some of the things that the equipment solved was physical labor, things that were physically demanding, the wear and tear on people's bodies. And so if we were able to lighten that load, that also, in addition to removing the stress, reduced their physical toll, and the hours weren't as long. So that was the feedback we were getting from them. They were excited to see those investments made in technology. And it just, the first one opened our eyes, and it's kind of moved down the river a little bit. We found other ones. We actually just had another piece arrive today that we haven't even installed. And it's either investing in new technology or adding capabilities of technologies we've recently invested in as well.
You gave us a nice tour back there, and you kind of talked about 2020, and you used a word that we heard a lot of, pivot. Mm-hmm. What are some of the ways that you pivoted And I know the answer, but for the people that weren't on the tour, what some of the things that you did?
So we have two kind of distinct segments of our business. One works heavily with manufacturers. The other works with kind of more of the marketing, and we have a heavy emphasis on retail store graphics, trade show exhibits, live events, sport events. Those activities and events came to a crashing halt due to COVID.
What was your initial? What was that like? Like, I mean,
The
you
pucker,
knew that.
the pucker factor.
The pucker, yeah. What
pucker
was the
factor.
pucker factor?
Well, so I went through a downturn in '08, the economic downturn in '08, and so my initial thoughts were it was going to be something like that, but that I had my own company at that point that ultimately International Graphics acquired. And one of the visions that Matt and I had in putting that agreement together was a diversification of capabilities and customers. And we have a lot of customers and competitors that are solely in that side of the market. And they were hit very hard. So for us as a business, it really solidified what my vision was 12, 13 years ago when Matt and I first sat down of diversification. So I went through that tough time in '08 to 2010 that, I mean, retail graphics weren't happening. It was bad. And so when that first happened, when this stuff first started happening, it was like, oh my goodness, we're going to go back into that. But I had comfort in the fact that our manufacturing and screen printing metal labels side was strong. And we were really surprised how that business actually grew. People, travel restrictions, people weren't taking vacations. They were taking their money and they were investing in, home remodels and, doing new outdoor living and dining areas. We do a lot with metal labels for wood stove manufacturers, high-end gas stoves. That business went through the roof. So it dropped off in the one area, it really grew in the other, but we had a lot of employees on that other side where there wasn't a lot of business. And we have a strong sales team, we have good customers that needed solutions. So we jumped in and said, what can we do? It kind of started off with finding whatever scrap material we have, and we donated router cutting and die cutting and CNC cutting face shields and donating to some of the local medical facilities.
Wow.
Started with that and said, okay, this got good feedback. I mean, there's a need. The mandate started coming out for social distancing. Acrylic shields. We started doing those, making the acrylic shields. A bunch of retailers in our area wanted campaigns for all of their facilities, and so that became we had to strive to find a easy to set up solution, a cost effective solution. And then buying the material, acrylic everybody was buying acrylic. So the pricing on that went through the roof. So, but we made a lot of floor graphics and we made a lot of those acrylic shields, and that we didn't get back to the level that we were, but it mitigated a lot of the loss. And, I'm super excited because over the last 90 days, our trade show customers, the trade show exhibitors that utilize our services for graphics, they've come back. Their activity has jumped back up. So there's positive signs. It was a very weird and serene time, kind of figuring, man, is this going to be like what it was before? And but again, it solidified my decision or my choice to come bring my talents here and have that diversification of revenue and customer base, because it kept us going strong.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Jason, I love your business. I love your business mind. I mean, we've only had the chance to meet you a couple of times, but these conversations we've had with you have just been really enlightening, and I could just get the sense of what a great businessman you are and what a great business you're running, and everything you're contributing to the community. We would love to have you and your business partner back on the Business Overview podcast for a proper, full episode. We're going to leave it there for now. But before we go, Ben, it's time.
It's time already?
It's time already.
Jason, it is time for the final question.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. So, Jason, we talked a little bit before. You like baseball. You had a great road trip. You had a great East Coast. You saw Yankee Stadium, Fenway, right? If you could pick any baseball team to do their entire, you could redo their entire logo, you do their wraps, everything. What team would you love to hear from?
Well, the gut answer is the Seattle Mariners.
Right.
I was born and raised in Seattle. Went to games with my dad as in the Kingdome in the 80s when Alvin Davis and Harold Reynolds and Spike Owen, like I can rattle off the names to no end. And I was fortunate to get a job working for the team in high school.
Did you really?
I did. I started out as a little peon at the gates, when they give away, the first 10,000 fans, you get the bobblehead.
Giving
or
away the
that type of
bobbleheads,
stuff.
yeah.
Helmets, yeah. I started out doing that, and it was in the stadium operations department, and quickly kind of ascended up that and worked my way up, kind of did that through high school and college, and I thought that was my career. I loved it.
Did you really?
I thought it was awesome. And then I learned, working in professional sports, if you're not on the field, there's a lot of sacrifices that come with that. So going to my last year of college, I said, you know what, this is it. I'm going to go do something else, but I want to have fun. And so I ended up calling the HR director, and I said, what opportunities do you have in the clubhouse? I want to work in the clubhouse. It's my last year. And she looked at things. She said, well, the only thing I have is a bat boy. And I said, bat boy? Like I'm almost done with college. But she explained, well, you have to be 18 because of the labor laws and how hours you work. So everybody's 18. So you're still in that your age. And if you're only going to do it for a year, like this would work. So I jumped at the chance. I spent the 2000 season in the clubhouse. It was an awesome year. It was the year before 116 wins, before Ichiro. But A-Rod was there, Edgar was there, Jay was there. Baseball was such a big thing in the Mariners, and I was there for the transition from the Kingdome. I went to the last game to the Kingdome and the first game at Safeco. So this last weekend was a special weekend. I have 3 young boys, 10 and under. Drove up to Seattle for the weekend. I took them and my dad to the game and walked them around the stadium and saw all the graphics that they never had in the Kingdome. But the wraps, the player features and stuff like that. And boy, I would say doing the hometown 9, doing the Mariners. I've got a good friend that I worked with back then that I'm still in touch with, and I tell him every year. We talk about them all the time, and it gets to a point where he asks me a question. I say, I'm not paying attention to him anymore. Husky football, Seahawks, whatever is on, and so I joke like, how long are they going to keep my attention this year? Well, we're sitting here, middle of August. They've still got my attention. I'm still following them. I'm still paying attention. I've got hopes for some kind of playoff berth, or wild card, or whatever. And you know what? Maybe I could turn that into some kind of big, maybe world champ. They're the only franchise in baseball that hasn't been to a World Series. So maybe I could do a World Series banner or graphic for Safeco Field and the Seattle Mariners.
Jeez, for real?
Yep.
Wow, that's crazy.
Well, I'm not a huge Mariners fan, but I am now because I want to see you make that banner.
Yes.
I just can't install it. That'll be the thing. I'm not good at that.
Well, thank you for having us to your place. Thank you for the tour. Thank you for your time. And most importantly, thank you for everything you're doing for the community and everything that you're doing for the tournament. I know John McKibben would be very proud of the work that you're doing. And we're thankful to be a very small part of that line. If people want to find out more about you or International Graphics and Nameplate, where would you like people to go?
Boy, our website is really cool. It's www.ign-usa.com. We've got a good video on there that actually has kind of tours you through the shop so you can see some aspects of our equipment and seeing stuff actually produced. It's got a small snippet of the things that are our capabilities, but you know what? I'm a phone call and email away. So we love helping small businesses, show them how to get better investment out of their dollars and add to their brand and help them build their business and grow.
Outstanding.
Hey, Canoper.
Yes.
If people want to find Biz Over Beer, where do they go?
They go to bizoverbeer.com, B-I-Z overbeer.com. We've got the links there to our podcast. We got audio, video. We got all our social media handle connections there, and a fantastic blog that Kayla writes.
Amen.
Terror and power. Yeah, sure.
Jason, thank you so much. Thanks for the tour. Thanks for what you're doing. You were. This was beyond what I expected.
Thank you.
Seriously, we got to talk baseball after the podcast. So.
Well, there's a little left in that growler. We'll finish that off and chat a little bit about
good.
that. I'm expecting that to be empty by the time we're done. So that's good.
Not a problem.
Good.
Thank you, Jason, Kaler, Canoper, people watching. Sorry. People listening. Thank you so much. Thank you to our Patreons, our supporters, and thank you everybody who has taken the time to at least check out the McKibben Classic. And this is going to be a great year, and that's all I can say. Appreciate it. See you next time.
Good night. Business Over Beer reminds you to always drink responsibly. Our theme song is Idiocracy by Christian Leo. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Business Over Beer, a TH3 Entertainment production.